I'm here in the waiting room of the dialysis center. It's kind of quiet. The usual employees in the front are gone, so it shouldn't be too many things that are happening at this time. I'm about to get my wife something to eat, so because I'm now taking her, I can actually go pick up something, come back, and then when it's time for her to go, then I can take her, and then we can have dinner right there instead of me having to go out and get something later on. In any case, I am bringing to you another session on the book of Genesis, and we're dealing with, at this point, Cain's genealogy, and it goes from Cain to Lamech. Is this not the same Lamech that essentially is in Seth's genealogy? We'll deal with that in the next chapter, but this essentially is the one that is a descendant of Cain. And I wanted to go through these two verses that kind of tells you the degeneracy that, see, sin, when sin is finished, it brings forth death, and it brings forth deterioration, and it brings forth destruction. It also means that people become more self-absorbed, which is exactly what took place in this case. So Genesis chapter 4, verse 23 says this: "And Lamech said unto his wives, Adah and Zillah, Hear my voice, ye wives of Lamech. Hearken unto my speech," like they're really going to still do anything against him. So this was probably, this could have been a threat to them as a threat to anyone that ends up challenging Lamech. This is what took place. "For I have slain a man to my wounding, and a young man to my hurt." This wasn't an accident. It may not have been a preconceived murder, but it was a killing. Now some translations say that that he had slain a man for wounding him and a young man for hurting him. Now the key here is that Lamech took it upon himself to kill someone. And even though with Cain, when he killed his brother Abel, it was mainly because Abel had a better offering, or he had a better attitude when he gave his offering than Cain did. And Cain couldn't take it, and he ended up killing his brother Abel. And I hate to say it, but sometimes people will do much worse for lesser slights. But it's because it eats at the core, it eats at your self-worth. You don't like feeling rejected. You don't like feeling as if someone had better grades, someone had better jobs, someone has a better life. So what do? You get rid of them so that you don't have to worry about that comparison anymore. That's what Cain did. And Lamech is following the same thing, except in this case, it must have been a fight. It may have been a fight. It may have been something that the person, as I said, it was a young man. It wasn't an older person. It was a young man. Maybe the person didn't know a lot. Maybe the person didn't know about Lamech's trigger temper. We don't know all these things, but we know this, that essentially Lamech killed someone because they wounded him. And it could have been that in the fight, Lamech was wounded, and then he went ahead and killed the guy. Or that, which would make it even worse, that the guy hurt Lamech. Lamech stewed upon it and thought about it for some time, and then ended up going ahead and taking vengeance. And that may have been the other thing. What he may have done, which was not a good thing at all, what he may have done was take vengeance, which essentially we know what the Bible says about that. It says, vengeance is mine, saith the Lord. Not vengeance is mine, said Elder Haman. So we let the Lord deal with vengeance. Well, but in whatever case it was, whatever aspect or whatever situation it was, the idea was that Lamech announced that he killed someone for hurting him. But here's where the self-absorbed, and the man is so consumed with himself. This is where it says in verse number 24, if Cain shall be avenged sevenfold, truly Lamech 70 and sevenfold. In other words, Lamech did not learn anything as to why Cain was spared in the first place. He was spared because of the grace of God, because God had already marked them as a fugitive and a vagabond, and that he could not get he got poor results from the soil because the Lord had cursed the ground that he would be plowing or he would be fixing for agriculture. And so he couldn't get anything from the ground. And so Cain was scared. He was frightened. He thought he was going to be martyred. Everyone that would find him would kill him. And so because of that, God gave him grace. Now, this is after he killed his brother and told God, am I my brother's keeper? Like, wow, just the arrogance of Cain. And then when Cain finally figured out the weight of his punishment, he said, it's worse than what I can bear. So God set a mark on Cain to preserve him, and at least give him a chance to serve God. But Cain went away from the presence of the Lord, both literally and figuratively. You hear nothing else about Cain's line ever calling on the name of the Lord. You didn't hear in Cain's line anything about anyone even approaching learning about God. When he left his father and his mother, Adam and Eve, he left his dead brother. He pretty much left any chance of redemption. And that was probably propagated throughout his generations. Because now here's Lamech. And Lamech makes this proclamation, if Cain be avenged sevenfold, then truly Lamech 70 and sevenfold. Which lets you know, again, Lamech was clueless in the reason why Cain was to be avenged. The Lord did not give Lamech that grace to go around killing people or to put himself up as a threat. So it most likely meant that Lamech was going to be the one that would take vengeance upon anyone who tried to hurt him. In other words, I'm the biggest, baddest dude around here. And if anyone tries to mess with me, I'm going to not only kill them, I'm going to kill their family, I'm going to kill their next of kin, I'm going to kill the ones that are descended from them, I'm going to wipe them off the face of the earth. As well as anyone who were even friends with him. That, to me, appears to be what Lamech was saying. So, in other words, don't mess with me. Because you thought you had trouble if you had dealt with Cain. You have nothing compared to messing with me. And that is where men's minds were being warped. We can see that even today. We can see that now. Someone gets chewed out. Someone gets attacked. They come back with knives, with guns, with bombs and everything else. How dare you come back to me? And you're the one that messed with them in the first place. But it shows you the descent of morality even in the days before the flood. Not the days close to the flood, but the days before the flood. Because by the time Lamech comes upon the scene, I believe that's what the time where I guess Enoch came into the picture on Seth's side. So there's still a few hundred years left before the flood would come. There wasn't even an announcement of a flood. But you can see the roots of man's inhumanity to others, of man's self-absorption, self-conceitedness, self-pride. These are the things that essentially, one thing is done out of grace, but people can take that out of context and push it to them. And maybe there were stories made about Cain, that Cain was a bad man. He was a bad man. Boy, if you messed with Cain, he was going to come back with you sevenfold. It may have been, that story may have been twisted. There's no way that Lamech had spoken to God about this, because it doesn't say anything about God being in Lamech's speech. He was just saying this to his wives. And I'm sure his wives told other people so that no one messed with this man. If you ever heard of this, it kind of reminds me, if you have, and you have to be old now, if you've heard of the movie Shaft, and there was a soundtrack with Isaac Hayes, and a soundtrack from Shaft, and I don't mean to laugh at it, but it was like, it said, you was a bad, then it said, shut your mouth. That was kind of what Lamech was talking about. I'm bad. I'm the baddest guy that walked upon this earth. Don't you even try to mess with me. When men begin to take too much upon themselves, then they become like this. And you see it all the time. And it's to the detriment of the human race, not its advancement. Lord, if we are in the days of Noah, help us. Please help us. God bless you. And don't be self-absorbed. Depend on God. Take care of yourselves in Jesus' name.